welcome to A Shitload of Sports. He is Keefus. I am Joe Pietaro, and we're going to talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame right now.
One of the more controversial halls of fame in all of professional sports.
Basketball Hall of Fame is basically, if you can dribble, you're in the Basketball Hall of Fame. But that's a subject for another day. We're talking about baseball right now. Basketball is a little more controversial because they put everybody in. Yeah. It's too watered down. But I am a snob when it comes to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I got to tell you, Keith, let me get a sip of water first because I'm going to say a mouthful quickly.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yes. When I was the editor-in-chief of New York Sports Scene magazine, I wrote a feature story saying the Hall of Fame is watered down. And I believe this was like 07 or so. And it was the year Molitor went in, or Ozzie Smith or something. And not only did I rip those guys, and I backed it up with stats and why I thought they shouldn't have made it, I even said that my beloved Mets catcher, Gary Carter, one of my favorite players of all time, was not deserving of the Hall of Fame.
Hung around too long.
No, nothing to do with that. I look at his prime. His career batting average was .262. Yeah, but he was a catcher. No, but he was an offensive catcher. Okay, so I don't.
That's why I say he hung around too long. Because if he had left the Mets, I think in '88 or '89 when his last year he caught there and walked away, he
high
probably would have been
.270s. Yeah. So, but to me, my thing is, you have to not only be dominant and the best player on your team, also. Arguably, in '86, when the Mets won the World Series, you could have argued for Darryl Strawberry to be the best player on that team, or Gary Carter. You could win either one. But he wasn't a slam dunk best player on his team. And the reason why I say this is the first Baseball Hall of Fame class did not include 511 game winner Cy Young. How do you let Cy Young not be in the first group of the Hall? And it wasn't a small group. I think there was, like 7 or 8 of those guys. You know, it's Babe Ruth, Hornsby, right. Roger Hornsby and all of those guys.
Luke Appling, Trish Speaker.
Yeah, I mean, it was just ridiculous fucking... But Cy Young did not make it. So I'm like, if Cy Young had to wait, then that was the right idea. They set the precedent in that first group before there even was a building. I think it was like 3 years later they actually opened the building in 39, and 36 was the first class voted by the writers. So I like to use that old-fashioned way. If you're not so great and so dominant that you have to wait an extra year when you won fucking 511 games and the best pitcher award is named after you, then how could we let anybody in that wasn't dominant? So that's why I consider myself a snob when it comes to the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Now,
say you.
I am obviously not as snobby as you. However, I do think that there are certain parameters that you must meet. Mm-hmm. To address your Cy Young point, you got to remember it's baseball writers voting this. Mm-hmm. It's the Baseball Writers Hall of Fame. Baseball Writers of America vote for the Hall of Fame. I believe that Cy Young wasn't very well liked by the baseball writers.
Okay, that's a point.
Like Carlton. Steve Carlton, Barry Bonds. So I think that's why he didn't make that first group.
So it was
a little bit of a slap on the wrist. You know, highway therapy, if you know what I'm talking about. But when you look at the stats, what I like to do is take 162 game average, which you can do on Baseball Reference, baseball-reference.com. Not that they're your sponsor, but, they're
no, but if you'd like
website.
To be, joeandmusclesportmag.com. Let's talk. I love Baseball Reference anyway.
They give you that 162 game average. And I look at that and I say, that's the player. Is that a Hall of Fame statistic?
It's a good way of being objective.
Is that a Hall of Fame statistic?
Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. They really don't. There are intangibles for people like a Paul Molitor, Kirby Puckett didn't get the numbers that Kirby Puckett only played about 10 or 11 years. Didn't get the numbers, didn't compile the correct numbers to look like a Hall of Famer, but he had Hall of Fame seasons all the way through, and was a team player and was clutch and had great postseasons and got 2 rings. So those are the intangibles that I look at. But true, the numbers really don't lie. To get right into this year's class, the 2018 Hall of Fame voting, right away, we'll start from the top. Chipper Jones. I think that's a no-brainer.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, came up as a shortstop, played third base. A star from his rookie year in '95 on.
Yeah. Killed the Mets.
Year, MVP.
He hit against the teams that were the ones that the Braves had to beat out, a la the Mets. That's a clutch player. He hits the strongest against the team that's the closest to his team.
He was a great leader in the clubhouse.
And he played the field fine. He wasn't a butcher out there by any stretch. He was a good fielding third baseman.
And he has 549 home runs for a switch hitter.
It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, 468 home runs as a switch hitter. And we'll go into his, for a third baseman, 303, 30, 105. Or his 162 game average. That's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You hit 300 for your career. Your average career, the average time we put you out there on the field, we're going to get a 303 batting average of you. We're going to hit 30 home runs, and you're driving 105 runs. You're a Hall of Famer.
Plus, you got to look at all the success the team had. I know they don't have the World Series wins, but you can't hang that on one player.
But they got the one.
They did get the one in '95, but they did run into some buzzsaws like the fucking Yankees in '99.
The Blue Jays in the early '90s.
They did play some teams that were really tough fucking teams. Not to say that you did excuse them to lose them, but Chipper was there every year. He was healthy. He was a team leader. Bobby Cox leaned on him to be the guy, and he was the guy. And that like kind of the Buffalo Bills. So Chipper, I guess, would be like the equivalent of like the Jim Kelly of the Bills.
Yes.
Definitely no argument from me, even the snob that I am.
Right.
With Larry Chipper Jones making it to the Cooperstown.
The second player that we come across is a guy who only played 16 years, and I say only because the average Hall of Famer is probably closer to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But in those 16 years, I mean, he clearly was dominant. That's Vlad Guerrero. Vlad Guerrero played for obviously the Expos, then had signed a big contract off with the Angels. Wound up his career last 2 years with Texas and Baltimore. He was done by 36, which
he was on the Long Island Ducks on paper.
On paper, but he couldn't get his visa cleared. Again, 449 home runs.
16 years. That's a lot of home runs.
He really didn't strike out that much. His worst year for strikeouts was 88. I mean, that's half a season.
That's nothing for a power hitter.
That's half a season for a guy like Aaron Judge or Chris Davis.
Yeah.
318 average, 34 home runs, 113 RBIs. That's
no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer.
And he
so
only
the
played...
average year that you throw him out there to play Major League Baseball, he's hitting 318 with 34 home runs and 113.
And he had a fucking cannon for an arm.
Cannon for an arm.
And
great right field.
When he played DH, it was because of the back injury. Remember the Mets were trying to sign him, but they were worried about his back injury?
About his back. He actually, and they would have only gotten 4 years out of him, but I mean, he wanted big money.
Yeah.
He was much like, he was an explosive hitter and torqued his bat when he swung.
Oh, his batting stance was
much like Donnie Baseball. If you watch Don Mattingly, who was not a Hall of Famer, didn't have the numbers.
Hitman, but not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he generated most of his power from his back. He would torque his back, throw his hips through the zone, but also twist his back. And Guerrero did that too. Guerrero had a very explosive swing.
Yeah, it was very exciting to watch when he hit the ball.
But also, followed through and put his back into it, and that's why he had hurt his back.
He's a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that.
He's a no-brainer. The third guy we come up to was a guy that, when I said his name, or you said his name, you said I don't know, but I think once we review how long he played, and we review his stats, you're going to see that day to day, every day, this guy came, he played, and he played first base, which is obviously not a physically taxing position like a catcher or a shortstop,
center field,
or center fielder, but and that's Jim Thome.
Yeah, we talked off air, and my initial reaction was no. But I can't start throwing numbers out there for Thome. So I'm be interested to hear some of them, and I probably will, after hearing them, say, you know what, I was wrong.
Yeah, he spent most of his career with Cleveland. I mean, he played since age 20. Spent most of his career with Cleveland. Cup of coffee with the Phillies. He wound up getting back to
He's with the White Sox.
White Sox.
Yeah.
Didn't catch the World Series with the White Sox in 05, which I thought he did. The Dodgers, the Twins, back to Cleveland, then back to Philly, then Baltimore, and
he was all over the place the last few years.
All over the place.
But his main meat years were with the Indians, and he was when the Phillies got him. He was still, a big thumper at the time. Still,
612 home runs.
500's usually the
Played
automatic.
till 41. So that's 21 years,
Yeah.
22 years.
What was his average career?
276, which is
But for a power hitter,
yeah.
He's not a fucking streak hitter.
276 is not a great average. I think that had a lot to do with his hanging on after age 35. His numbers declined tremendously.
He was DHing at the
245, 249, 256.
That's a killer at the
252, But again, his 162 game
let me
average.
hear it. I'm sure it's pretty fucking
260,
impressive.
276, 39, 108. I mean, you're averaging almost 40. So in his average year, he gives you pretty much 40 home runs and almost 110 RBIs at first.
I'm going to be a dick on this one. I'm not going to say he's not a Hall of Famer, but was this his first year of eligibility?
Yes.
Shouldn't be a first ballot.
I can understand that.
Shouldn't be a first. I think he should be one of those guys where maybe there's a short ballot that year. There's not a lot of automatics. And I'm not, and I don't even, I'm not saying he should have to wait for the Veterans Committee. I'm saying he should maybe make it one of his last 2 eligible years on the ballot.
Okay.
He'll get that 75% every year, so he's going to get pushed back, keep getting on it. But when that year thing comes up, I forget the exact number or what it is, maybe he should have to wait. He did, and he started as third baseman, went to first base, DH at the end of his career. He did play a long time, but I also think that another guy that wasn't like dominant at any point in his career was very good.
He had a lot of big years. He had 50 a few years.
And those are the years that it's almost impossible to continue that. But if he was able to continue at least some of that production later in his career, maybe his numbers would have been more impressive overall. So I'm going to say Tomei should not have got voted in this year, but later on, yes.
Okay.
A little bit of a dick, not a total dick.
No, not a total dick. I can understand what you're saying. I mean, I think the 612 that comes out.
And I'm not an automatic guy.
No.
Don Sutton is not a fucking Hall of Famer. I don't give a fuck about 300 wins. Don Sutton was a junk ball pitcher. Was not a Hall of Famer.
What about Gaylord Perry?
For longevity, yes.
What about Phil Niekro?
Too many losing teams, so his fucking record was pretty bad. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. No.
Okay, all right. No, fair enough. Listen.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who they're starting to get inducted, relievers.
Yeah.
And here's a guy who was probably one of the best throughout the 90s.
51 was his high water mark?
I think it's 53, I'm sorry.
53.
And it's Trevor Hoffman.
Fucking amazing fucking pitcher he was.
Yeah. He was... His 162 game... All right, now with the saves. He has 601 saves.
It's kind of hard to judge that.
Only bested by Rivera.
Yeah, it's hard to judge because, like you said, they're just starting to get them in there, and a lot of guys are converted to relievers earlier, like before it was so specialized the game. So it's hard to really use a raw number as an automatic for relievers, but that's a lot of saves, man. A lot.
His 162 average is 4 and 5.
You don't go by that with the relievers, though.
287 ERA, which is
a little high for a closer.
It is a little high. He never. 148 was that year when he had 53 was 148.
Did he win a Cy Young that year?
That was in '98. No, no, he did not. He's never finished better than second. Well, he was second for 2 Cy Youngs.
Yeah, he would have been. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was
ten-time All-Star.
That was 98.
18 years. Yeah, 98. And his career ERA is that's high. And how many saves does he have in his 162 game average? Let me see this.
Probably like 35.
39 and 72 innings pitched, 74 strikeouts.
More than a strikeout an inning, which you want to see from your closer. '98, that was the year that they ran into the Yankees in the World Series and got swept.
Right.
The Yankees were...
Scott Brocious over the center field
Yeah,
wall.
the Yankees were fucking animals that year.
And this was his third. It wasn't like he got voted on the first time. This was his third time.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to say yes for Hoffman, only because relievers, like you said, they're just starting to get recognized that way. It's really, relievers only really started basically in the 60s and 70s really as...
I would say that the reliever of today that you see, late 80s.
Maybe after the whole La Russa fucking,
I would say,
righty matchup. Maybe Raleigh Fingers was the first and Suter and those guys.
Eckersley was the first closer that you can match with today, where you bring him in the ninth inning,
you know what?
And he shuts you down.
Was Catfish,
and
not
then
Catfish.
Randy Myers and Rob Dibble. I mean, those were the guys.
But you had fucking, I was just saying Sparky Lyle. I said Catfish Hunter because they look alike with the mustache. Sparky would come in and pitch 3 innings.
Right.
And it was different.
3 innings. He would come in the 3rd inning.
Yeah.
And try to finish the game.
And then you'd have fucking
Gossage.
Goose. These guys didn't pitch fucking, 4 out. Oh my God, they're going for a 5-out save.
Right.
Like the guys fucking walking on the fucking moon or something. It's like, holy shit. You look at some of the relievers, but that's the specialized game has gone to a 7th inning man, an 8th inning man, and a 9th inning man.
Right.
So Hoffman definitely was an amazing relief pitcher and not on a great team throughout his career either.
No.
They had some spurts, the Padres.
Yeah.
But they were a second division team for the most part throughout his career, I'd say. So he had a lot of saves on a team that didn't win a lot of freaking games.
That's right.
So that's impressive in its own right. He pitched for a small market shitty team.
Yes.
So I go along with him.
Okay. Next,
you too, I'm assuming. You like him there. You're not totally in on him?
I think I'm more I would have waited a little bit. I mean,
Third
he
time,
gets in, but
they could have maybe.
I mean, he is
5.
in my opinion, he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not. He certainly isn't Rivera.
No, Rivera is one of a kind.
I think his problems in the postseason, because postseason is what
measures you
as a closer, I think. And when he got there, he wasn't that good.
Not even counting that Yankee series. I'm talking about overall.
Yeah.
Even. Yeah.
Next player is Jack Morris, who got voted in by the Veterans Committee.
I look at Jack Morris's career by that Game 7 in the 1991 World Series where he pitched 10 innings, and Minnesota won. And that Braves Twin series was one of the best I've ever seen in my lifetime. That was an exciting World Series, and Morris was the reason why.
Jack Morris is not a Hall of Famer.
I don't know his numbers offhand. I know he was really good on Detroit for a long time. Then he went to Toronto as a big-time free agent, and then he won over there. What are his overall numbers? Because I'll snob out on him.
254 wins, 186 losses.
That was a kind
390 ERA. His 162 game average is 16-12 with a 390 ERA.
Not a Hall of Famer. And I'm not going by the one game either. I'm saying that he was so clutch in that game.
He played 18 years. If you give me 10 years of Hall of Fame numbers,
you'll give him the thing.
17-7, 328. Okay.
Good. We'll count that.
14-7, 305.
I'll go with that.
16-15, 418.
No.
17-16, 406. 20-13, 334.
I'll give him that because of the 20.
19-11, 360.
I'll give him that.
16-11, 333. No. 21-8, 327.
Yeah.
18-11, 338.
I'll give him that.
Yeah. 15-13.
No.
6-14.
He was that was
15-18.
No.
18-12, 343.
What team was that for the Twins?
The Twins in '91. I'll give him that because that was.
I'll give him that because he was really a big part of that team making it and winning that.
Then in '92, 21-6, 404.
Fucking amazing.
7-12, 10-6.
No,
you're at 8.
8, and I gave him 2 that could have possibly been no's if I was a little more of a
175 complete games.
That's
back then
they did that then.
You could throw a complete.
What
game
year did he start
loss.
with the Tigers? When did he come up?
77.
And back then
you would throw a complete game for a loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't pull guys out of games. They didn't do pitch counts back then.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you on that. You know what? Because when I think Morris, I think longevity. I think later in his career, he had some great years. That 92 year was even better than that 91 after he's coming off of that championship. And they won again in 92, right?
92 and 93. Twins won in 91.
Oh, he went to the Blue Jays then. Okay, so he won 3 World Series in a row with 2 different teams.
Right.
Because he went to Toronto, and that's when they picked up David Cohn. Joe Carter was in 93.
Yeah.
In 92, they won the World Series also.
Yeah.
So Jack Morris, he was kind of almost like a mercenary.
Yeah.
To go to those 2 different teams after leaving the
hired
Tigers.
gun.
Yeah.
And that's what Cohn was.
Yes.
Because Cohn had gone from Kansas City to Toronto, then back to Kansas City, and then went to the Yankees.
Yeah. So Jack Morris, if you look at some of those years, he was dominating, but overall, not a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Neither is Blyleven, too, and that's another one I was fucking so couldn't believe that when they made that.
Oh, but he
one.
had a great curveball.
And he won 300 games.
He didn't win 300.
He didn't win. He was close to the same amount of losses, too. He pitched on some sucky teams, too, the Indians.
And also
And
the
Minnesota.
Angels.
And, yeah, Minnesota, too, he was with. Who
Next,
else?
the next one that got voted in the last one for the Veterans Committee was Alan Trammell.
I don't even want to know his stats, and I'm going to say definitely not. And you tell me what his stats are.
20 years, his best stat would be 2,300 hits, 2,365.
So we're going with the 2,000 hits? Oh, no, that's 3,000.
Yeah, that's his best stat. That's what I said. His
Famer.
162 game average is. I'm waiting for this to load. 13 home runs, 71 RBIs, which isn't
For a shortstop
for a
in the day,
shortstop back in the day.
people got to realize shortstops were not looked at as offensive players. They were looked at as defensive players, and anything you got out of them, they usually hit 8th or 9th, depending on which league you played in, was a bonus. You had certain guys that were different, like Ripken and stuff like that. Yes, he was a shortstop. You young folks that say, hey, third baseman. Alan Trammell was on a team that did have some success.
285, 1371.
That's not even close.
His best year was in 87. He had a great year in 87. 343, 28, 105. For a shortstop, that's unbelievable.
Okay, but that's one fucking year, though. What did he do, all these other years? Did he have any...
309. All right, let's do it. He's got 20 years. We'll do it.
All right, let's do it.
186.
Well, that's early.
268. 1979, 276, 650. No. 1980, All-Star, 309, 65.
The production's too low, even though the hits are up there.
258, 231. No. 258, 957.
No.
All right.
I'm even for shortstops, I'm saying no.
319, 1466.
I'll give him that one, only because you didn't have to hit 100 RBIs.
30
then.
steals, too. So give him
100
that.
RBIs wasn't the magic number
And
back
30
then.
steals, I'm giving him that.
That's a good season, yeah.
84. 3-4 the World Series.
That's the World Series.
314, 1469.
I'll give it to him. He was good there.
258, 1357. No.
No, the average too low.
277, 2175.
I'll give him that.
You gonna give him that?
Yeah.
343, 28, 105.
Oh,
Yes.
without a doubt. Yeah.
311, 1569.
I'll go
Give him
there.
that.
5. We got 5.
243.
No. Don't even need to
304, 1489. Yeah, I'll give him
6.
that. 248, 275.
What were the production numbers? 275.
1 home run, 9 home runs.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no.
93.
He must have been hurt.
329, 1260. I'll give him that.
I'll give him that.
Then 267, 828, 269, 223, 233, 116.
7.
No. Out of 20.
Not a Hall of Famer. Alan Trammell, and he was a terrible manager, too. But I liked Alan Trammell. That 84 Cardinal Tigers team was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, they came
Willie
out of the
Hernandez.
game like 33 and 10.
Oh, my God.
And they ran the gauntlet.
It was like that fucking Braves, when the Braves came out of the gate that year. Forget which
95.
one. Was it 95? Yeah, they were just like, April, they were just magical. So it was like a wire-to-wire kind of thing with those two teams. But Alan Trammell was a great player on his team. I'm using that word liberally when I speak about Alan Trammell, but that team was loaded with some players. Alan Trammell was
Gibson.
Come on, he was the heart and soul of 2 teams.
Darrell Evans,
yes, the first baseman. He was a fucking thumper, big time home run hitter. And was Lou Whitaker on that team also?
Lou Whitaker was the second baseman.
Second baseman, right?
Trammell and Whitaker.
So you had some really good players on that team. Alan Trammell was one of them, but not even
Larry
close.
Parrish.
Larry Parrish, the
Catcher.
catcher.
I modeled when I caught in high school. I modeled my glove after him. I had the black glove with the orange.
Oh, for the target.
Yeah.
I used to do the Bo Diaz, and I played softball.
Oh, and then you had the satellite dish fall on your head.
Oh my god. Is there a veterans? You said those. So
Those
that
were
was
the two veterans.
all right.
committees.
So is there? So we. So
That's it. Those
all right.
are
That's the
those
whole
are the
Hall of
6.
Fame talk.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did pick some of the guys without a doubt, like Vladimir Guerrero,
Chipper.
Chipper. Hey, Chipperson. Chipper and Vladimir Guerrero, no fucking problem there. Morris, no. Trammell, no.
Hoffman.
Trevor Hoff. I said yes on Hoffman only because it's kind of you're going. It's a newer thing, so let's set some kind of standard. With you have to be a dominant reliever, and yes, Trevor Hoffman was a dominant reliever.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so I'll say yes, he was the best reliever in the NL for a long time. Obviously, Mariano was better in the AL, but Trevor was fucking dominant. So I'll use the word I use. You have to be dominant. He meets that criteria. I give him the thing, and he has the numbers to back it up as well. But
but Jack Morris, no. I mean, you can, you
can't put a fucking pitcher in. That's a 500 pitcher for the most part.
If you're doing it on postseason performances, then Jim Leyritz is a Hall of Famer. I mean, who's better in the postseason?
Don't give him any beers.
Yeah, Jim Leyritz is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Brocious' 98 series, puts him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you have to do it over the long haul. Maybe you don't have a chance to be in the postseason like an Ernie Banks. You can't blame Ernie Banks for not being in the postseason. I mean, he's one of the best players of all time, and he's just did not have the right
Pablo
team.
Sandoval for San Francisco. When the World Series would come, he would turn it up. He certainly isn't a Hall of Famer.
Oh, is he even playing anymore?
I think
he went back to the Giants.
He went back to San Francisco.
Yeah. He got the Red Sox. That was a dumb deal because you can see he was a fat fuck when they signed him. It made no sense to do that. Even
that was their Jason Bay.
Oh my god. Jason Bay, 44 homers the year he did his walk year at Fenway, and the Mets gave him, what was he, $16 million a year or something, a 4-year deal or some shit. Oh my god, yeah, he was a piece of shit. Jason Bay, not a Hall of Famer, also. But any other thoughts on Hall of Fame?
I think that the way that I just did it is the way that I think that who am I, but that's how I analyze it. I look at the 162 game average. If it's close, then I start counting years. Was this a Hall of Fame year? Was this not a Hall of Fame year?
That's a good way to scratch it out.
If he has 15 years in the league, I'll count 10. If you have 10 Hall of Fame years, you should probably be a Hall of Famer.
Even if you play 20.
Right. Even if
you play 20. Because usually at the end of the career.
Because that's a decade of dominance. A decade of playing on a very high level.
And there's my magic word.
Right.
Dominance, dominating him. Maybe I'm into S&M more than I think. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm a dick for saying Gary Carter's not a Hall of Famer? And I said that when he was alive. And, so I'm not, kicking him when he's in the ground. I said that before he was even managing the Ducks, which was a great interview, by the way.
He was.
I interviewed him at the Ducks in his office with the Long Island Ducks minor league team. So I had said Gary Carter wasn't.
Jack Morris is cool. He wants to talk to you.
Jack, sorry, man. You kicked me in the balls, but, it is what it is. But that's the way I feel. What do you guys think? Keith is a little more open to things than me, but I liked his breakdowns. We went by the numbers, and we also looked at intangibles because these are players that we saw play because this is guys that, if you're going to talk about a Negro League player that played in the 40s or something, obviously I'm not going to be able to talk about intangibles. Yeah, I can only go by numbers.
Federal League or...
the Brooklyn Tip Tops. Yeah. So that's I can go by guys that I actually saw play live at Yankee or Shea Stadium as a kid, a teenager, and adult. And I'm getting real old, so a lot of these guys, I remember them when they came up as rookies and way before that even probably. So that's what I go by, is what I saw, and I followed the game. So I would say if a guy's not dominant, all right, let me look at the numbers. Do I prove myself wrong or I prove myself right? And some of them, you kind of split it right down the middle with these guys. So interesting topic for fodder.
I think next year's class should be very interesting. I think
who is
Griffey
in it?
comes up.
Oh, I gotta say absolutely with Griffey. Yeah,
I think it's Jeter's 5th year.
Jeter they should name a wing after this fuck. And I'm a Met fan who killed the Mets and made me cry. All right, but I have to be objective as a fucking journalist. And Derek Jeter is one of the most impressive athletes I've ever seen in my life. He's just.
Did you get a wing?
Give him a wing.
Do you like the leg? The
I got a wing.
Or you still go for the
My
old
mother's
hot
got
lungs?
the sausage and peppers at my mother's house, Henry. All right, we're being silly. Guys, let us know what you think, Hall of Fame. Go right down there in the comments, likes, dislikes, whatever the fuck you want to do. And maybe you can, listen, you can jump in on one of our live shows one time and we can talk about this. I do 2 a week, Monday and Thursdays. On Instagram at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can jump in and tell me I'm a douchebag, or you can say I agree with you. If not, maybe you see us at the Olympia, you can say it.
All right.
We'll see you guys next time.